And as a story out about Kamala Harris that essentially the White House is throwing her under the bus. They are making her the scapegoat for all of their problems. It is a fascinating read. It is an exclusive from CNN. Worn out by what they see as entrenched dysfunction and lack of focus, key White House aides have largely thrown up their hands at Vice President Kamala Harris and her staff, deciding there simply isn't time to deal with them right now, especially at a moment when President Joe Biden faces quickly multiplying legislative and political concerns. The exasperation runs both ways. Interviews with nearly 36 former and current Harris aides, administration officials, Democratic operatives, donors, and outside advisors who spoke exclusively to CNN reveal a complex reality inside the White House. Many in the vice president's circle fume that she's not being adequately prepared or positioned, and instead is being sidelined. The vice president herself has told several confidants she feels constrained in what she's able to do politically, and those around her remain wary of even hinting at future political ambitions, with Biden's team highly attuned to signs of disloyalty, particularly from the vice president. My goodness gracious. This is a disaster of a story for the White House. What is interesting is this. Ron Klain, the president's chief of staff, in a statement provided to CNN, downplayed any criticism of the vice president, saying Harris and her team, quote, are off to the fastest and strongest start of any vice president I have seen, end quote. Citing a range of work from stressing COVID-19 vaccine equity to meeting with many foreign leaders, Klain added, quote, anyone who has the honor of working closely with the vice president knows how her talents and determination have made a big difference in the administration. You know who they go to for a defense of Harris? On record with a real defense? The lieutenant governor of California, who none of you have heard of. That's a pretty terrible sign. And if I were a Democrat, if I were Kamala Harris, I would be a little bit concerned with how the White House is proceeding. And then Jen Psaki last night kind of puts a big bracket around why this is a bad story for all of them. She tweeted this at 9:20 p.m. last night after the CNN story broke. For anyone who needs to hear it, the VP is not only a vital partner to the president, but a bold leader who has taken on key, important challenges facing the country, from voting rights to addressing root causes of migration to expanding broadband. Now, if you are untrained in the ways of Washington PR, you may think that's a perfectly serviceable tweet. For anyone who needs to hear it, @VP, that's the Twitter title for Kamala Harris, is not only a vital partner to @POTUS, the president's Twitter handle, but a bold leader who has taken on key important challenges facing the country, from voting rights to addressing root causes of migration to expanding broadband. Do you understand why this is a problem? Let me narrate this for you. Kamala Harris was picked for her gender and her race. She was not picked for her competence. In fact, she is well known to run a dysfunctional office. When she was Attorney General of California, she ran a dysfunctional office. It has been widely documented. When she ran her Senate office, she ran a highly dysfunctional office. It has been widely documented. And now she's running a highly dysfunctional vice presidential office, and this too has been documented not by conservative outlets, but by mainstream left-leaning outlets. Her staff is at each other's throats. She allows it to go on. She sends mixed signals. She plays favorites. She pits staff against staff. This is what she does. And it has been going on for a long time. It's what she did on a presidential campaign. And in that presidential campaign, she blew it. She never even made it to Iowa. Kamala Harris, before becoming vice president of the United States, had only been in Washington for 4 years. I actually had to go back and look at that. I couldn't believe that was true. Turns out she's been that annoying. It seems like she's been there forever annoying us, but it's only been 4 years, and then became vice president. Had the audacity to think after 4 years in Washington, she was competent and qualified to run for president of the United States. That should tell you everything right there. She was the freaking Attorney General of California who ran for the Senate, was there for 4 years, and 2 years in thinks, I'm going to run for president of the United States. Kamala Harris's ego is greater than her accomplishments. Kamala Harris's ego consumes her with ambition, and she's not that great at it. And everyone knew this in Washington, not just the Republicans. It was an open secret. That's why there's been so much documentation by mainstream left-leaning political outlets that her office has always been in shambles, whether as AG or a senator or as a presidential candidate or in the vice presidential mansion. So Ron Klain gives a statement, and you think it's glowing. Ron Klain is known as a Harris defender in the West Wing and does weekly one-on-one meetings with her in the West Wing to help her strategize. Now, Ron Klain is not showing himself to be the most competent person. Ron Klain, the White House chief of staff, is damaged goods. I am actually kind of amazed that the president has kept him around as long as he has. We'll get into that later. But he provides this statement that she is and her team are off to the fastest, strongest start of any vice president I've seen. Anyone who has the honor of working closely with the vice president knows how her talents and determination have made a big difference in this administration. Really? And that gets me to the Jen Psaki tweet. Now, I'm not going to read Twitter handles. I'm just going to read you again the names. For anyone who needs to hear it, Kamala Harris is not only a vital partner to Joe Biden, but a bold leader who has taken on key important challenges facing the country, from voting rights to addressing root causes of migration to expanding broadband. Let's break down this tweet to why it's terrible for Kamala Harris. This comes because of a damaging CNN story. It is a CNN story where virtually no one from the White House will go on record defending Kamala Harris. And those who are willing to talk to CNN to defend Kamala Harris throw out the race card. They actually accuse the White House of being more aggressively defensive of Pete Buttigieg's paternity leave than of Kamala Harris. They dare to raise the specter of white privilege and racism. That should tell you there's a problem right there, that's how they perceive this. Kamala Harris, of course, is worried about Buttigieg running against her in 2024. Open secret now in the White House, Joe Biden is not running again. And Kamala Harris is so inept, she's not scaring anybody off. Now here comes the CNN story that basically says she is so incompetent and her office is so incompetent that the White House is thinking of putting her on the Supreme Court to get her out of the way. That's actually in the CNN story. So here comes Jen Psaki, and what does she do? What does she do? The better question you should be asking is, what does Jen Psaki not do? She does not rebut the CNN story. She does not denounce the CNN story. She does not deny the CNN story. She says Kamala Harris is a vital partner and a bold leader. She does not say we call it the Biden-Harris administration for a reason. This story is nonsense. She doesn't say that. No, what does she do? She decides to list 3 of the challenges about which Kamala Harris has taken on as a quote-unquote bold leader. Voting rights, which she's failed to do anything about. The root causes of migration, which she's failed to do anything about. Expanding broadband, which she's failed to do anything about. If you want to deny the CNN story, you deny the CNN story. This is PR 101 in Washington, D.C. You come out guns blazing, attack the reporters, attack the story, attack the sources, say this is BS. This is we call it the Biden-Harris administration. We don't call it the Biden administration like prior norms. We don't do that. But they didn't do that. Instead, they point out 3 areas of policy failure and say Kamala Harris was in charge of them. I mean, I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but progressives are livid with the Biden administration over their failure to get voting rights passed. Independents and conservatives are livid about the root causes of migration not being dealt with, and no one really gives a damn about expanding broadband. This is bad PR if you're trying to help Kamala Harris. Instead, it sounds like they're damning her with faint praise. Instead, it sounds like she's drowning in bad PR, and instead of handing her a life preserver, they've handed her a brick. They are literally within the White House speculating that they may have to put her on the Supreme Court when Stephen Breyer's seat comes open to get her out of the way and allow Biden a do-over. Here's the problem for Kamala Harris, and if they went with Pete Buttigieg, it would be the exact same problem. They are spectacularly unaccomplished. They are spectacularly unaccomplished. They have done nothing. They think because of their sexual orientation in Buttigieg's case and where he governed as a mayor, and Kamala Harris because of her race and gender, that somehow within the Democratic Party they can rise to a level of leadership for which they have no competence. And it shows with Kamala Harris and it shows with Pete Buttigieg. The man went on paternity leave for 2 months and nobody even noticed. And now Harris is mad that the White House defended him more than they defend her. This is all about 2024. And the Harris team has done a terrible job. And what this all signals is that, yes, there is going to be a Democratic primary in 2024 because, no, Joe Biden is not going to run again for office. And they don't really have a bench. And everyone's fighting now. The CNN article, there have been a number of these articles about the dysfunction within the vice president's office, but all of them have been about the people around her. This directly connects those people to Kamala Harris. And you do not have anyone from the White House vigorously, strenuously denouncing the story and defending Harris. That's all you need to know about how bad things are for Kamala Harris. And oh, don't look now. The ABC Washington Post poll, which is brutal for the Democrats, has Kamala Harris's popularity 10 points less than Joe Biden's, and his is already in the 30s. It's a remarkable disaster. The moral of the story is Kamala Harris is the very first vice president picked in modern times for her race and gender, not her competence and experience. And this is what you get when you identity politics the person who's one heartbeat away from the presidency.
Want to be on the show? Call Eric